One of my all-time favorite movies is Cool Hand Luke. You know it, I take it.
Yeah.
For those of you who may not remember or do not know it, it starts out with Luke getting arrested for cutting the heads off parking meters. Something that many of us probably have thought about at some time, if not a baseball bat instead. And he's sent to a prison farm in the southern part of the United States. And there it begins. Over the next bit of time, Luke becomes a part of this group. And without seeming to try to do so, throughout the movie, he seems to become the focus for them. He's their inspiration. He, in many ways, is their leader, even though he doesn't seem to aspire to this particular role. What becomes clear over time is that the role of Luke in this movie is that of a Christ figure. And as you go back and reflect on the movie and think about the life of Christ, you can see the parallels. They're not literal, they shouldn't be. But it's this wonderful parallel between how Jesus' life went in his ministry and journey and how this took place within this prison farm. Fairly early in the movie, things have been happening. We're getting a sense of how things are going. And Luke comes into the barracks. And all of the men are standing there watching him as he walks in. And they don't say a word. And he climbs up on the top bunk there in their midst. And he picks up a banjo, and he starts to strum it. And he begins to sing. I don't care if it rains or freezes, long as I have my plastic Jesus sitting on the dashboard of my car. His colors are pink and pleasant, glows in the dark because he's iridescent. Take him with you when you travel far. A pivotal point in this particular movie. Like Jesus in today's gospel, who walks up to his disciples just as they're beginning their journey back to Jerusalem. And he asked them, who do they say that I am? And they give him the plastic Jesus answer. Oh, they say that you are Elijah or this prophet or this leader. That's who you are. That's the easy answer. And then he asked them the more serious and intimate question, who do you say that I am? When Luke did this with these folks, when he sang this song, it's like he was saying to the men gathered around him, you think it's been rough to this point of our lives? You think this place has been bad? Your image of plastic Jesus is not an image that's going to get you through what's coming. And it's the same thing that Jesus was saying to his disciples. You and I have, each and every one of us, have within our psyche, within our belief system, our own construct of a plastic Jesus. And very often that construct, that image of Jesus, looks a whole lot like us. Have you noticed that? I mean, just think about all the flack we get when someone dares to paint a portrait of Jesus that isn't Caucasian and blue-eyed. All of a sudden, it is big news. Yet you and I hold on to our image of Jesus very often because it gives us comfort and brings us peace. And there's nothing wrong with that. We need comfort and peace. But that's an unfinished image of Jesus that you and I carry. And it's as if Jesus asks us this question, who do you say that I am? And in so doing, challenges us to broaden our image and allow for an image of Jesus that not only comforts us, but challenges us. 55 years ago yesterday, a bomb exploded in Birmingham, Alabama. Some sticks of dynamite had been affixed together and attached to a timer, and they were placed under the side steps at 16th Avenue Baptist Church. And they were placed there by a group of people whose image of Jesus looked a whole lot like them. A very white Jesus who didn't allow for the presence of loving anyone who didn't look like them, and whose cross burned. And the people who were gathering in that church that morning gathered there with an image of Jesus as a person who came to bring justice into the world. And as they gathered there and the explosion took place, 4 children died. And shortly after that, 2 were shot and killed by people who bore within their belief system this image of Jesus. Horrible, horrible experience. Within a week or so after this happened, there was a television show called Our Protestant Heritage. And on this television show, there was an interviewer who had 2 guests. One was James Baldwin, the author and social critic. And the other was Reinhold Niebuhr, the theologian. An interesting thing you may not know about the explosion. You've probably seen pictures of the destruction. But a curious thing happened. There was a stained glass window of Jesus. The window was not destroyed. It was fully intact. There were no cracks in it. There was only one thing that happened. The face of Jesus was gone. The face of Jesus was gone. Just disappeared. So this television show was organized to make sense in some way of the explosion in Birmingham. And the opening question from the interviewer to the 2 guests were this. They had a picture behind them of this stained glass window. And his question was something along the lines of this: does this faceless picture of Christ offer us anything about the explosion in Birmingham? Both of them offered brilliant answers, but I've got to tell you, James Baldwin's answers, he gave 2. And I thought they were absolutely magnificent. They were powerful, and they still shake me to the core. The first response was, he said, I can be very cynical, and I can say that nothing really here, it's kind of a welcome thing because we have been oppressed by an alabaster Jesus all along. And then he said, if I really want to be serious about this, what I will offer is this. We are all responsible for how we construct our images of our gods. Maybe it's time we put a face on this one that truly looks like Christian love. You and I, we can cling to our plastic Jesus. No one's going to make you or me do anything about it. But if you and I don't come to terms for ourselves with the limitations of how we see Christ, then we are going to miss something very important in our lives. And we're going to miss something very important to offer to the world. A plastic Jesus doesn't last. It doesn't get us through the hard and difficult times. But the face of Christ offered in love does. Regardless of the color, regardless of its shape, regardless of the size of his nose or his eyebrows or the color of his eyes. An image of Christ painted with Christ's love endures. Endures. So let me ask you, who do you say that Jesus is?